What's going on, guys? David Falla here. Welcome to another tutorial. On today's video, we're going to be doing a mid to high fade with a trim on top. It's going to be short on top, kind of spiky. This is more like a regular haircut, like the type of haircuts that we do daily at the barbershop. So this is going to be fun. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to create a first guide using our machine with a lever closed. In this case, I'm using the Babyliss FX to create the guide. Then now I'm going to go ahead and create a second guide. This is going to be with the lever open, which is going to be a half, and this is going to be half an inch, I will say, between those two guides. I'm going to apologize because for some reason there's footage missing from this recording, but I will explain whatever is missing. So here I removed all the bulk, and how you can see on top of the half guide that I made, I created another guide that was with a 1 open. So pretty much we have a 0, we have a half, and then we have a 1 open. Just keep that in mind. So so here I'm using just my shaver just to remove and bolt out the bottom, anything underneath the 0 guide. Just make sure you leave a little bit of room between the shaver and your 0 guide, because you know, just in case that you create a harsh line and you need to fade it or blend it or remove it using your shaver, you don't want to get too close between those two guides, and then you have no room to fade, and then if you create a guide, then it's going to be hard to remove it. So just keep that in mind. I usually keep kind of like I would say half an inch, a quarter to a half an inch between all my guides, just so it has a nice faded look. So we're gonna go ahead and start fading the first guide. That will be the 0 guide. So we're gonna start with a lever open, then we'll start closing that lever little by little. A lot of people have problems erasing the first guide, which is the skin line. If you have problems with that, I would recommend you to fade that first. Like that, you don't have to worry about it at the end, and actually you can see where your guides are, because you still have, you know, you haven't faded anything else, so you can see where your limit is. So you don't pass that limit when you're fading. So I would recommend you to fade that first. That's what I usually recommend for people that are just starting, like new, like beginners. I recommend to remove that skin line first and then go from there. So now what we're gonna start doing, we're gonna go ahead and start closing that lever little by little, and as you close that lever, your strokes become lower and lower. You don't go as high anymore with the machine, and that's just you know, you continue working on that until that line is fully blended. So I'm actually gonna cut the top first, just because it honestly makes it so much easier when you cut the top. You already know what the length on top is, you can just fade from there. So instead of cutting the sides, cutting the top, then fading everything into each other, I think it just creates more work. So that's why we're cutting the top first. On the top, we're going to use a shear over comb or scissor over comb technique. Just because the client likes it very short, I wouldn't be able to grab this hair with my fingers. So scissor over comb works perfectly for this. The client already had product on his hair, so actually it makes it a lot easier for me to cut it this way. So this is a technique that a lot of people especially back in the day, or actually in a lot of shops that people still use. They apply a tiny bit of very soft hair gel to the hair, and then they use the shear over comb technique to cut the top. And honestly, I mean, as long as you cross check and as long as you are very consistent on the way you passing that comb and the way you cut it, you're actually gonna create a good haircut. And you know, it's gonna be a 90-degree haircut, because you're pretty much most likely following the head shape, and so it's gonna be a 90-degree haircut. It's not, you know, honestly, like when I was done with this haircut off camera, I actually double checked the top, make sure that it was good, and it was good. It was actually pretty even. So this technique is it's a technique that I know a lot of people use it because it's quick to cut this way, but you gotta be very careful. The chances of you making mistakes is very high, because there's no precision. There's no precision in what you're doing. So just keep that in mind. You know, it's a great technique. I just don't use anymore because I like to make sure that there's precision and I create the shape that I want to create, not just the shape the head is giving me. You know what I mean? So just keep that in mind. So now we're gonna go ahead and start using our clipper over comb. So I'm gonna start fading already. I'm gonna start fading from the top, the length that I have on top. I'm gonna start fading into my number half that we already, 0 that we already blend it. So that's when we use a clipper over comb technique, just to create that shape and also to blend. So my comb is going to be on a 90 degrees from the wall, so not even from the head, from the wall, because we're going to leave the haircut square, and then this is going to give us the shape that we want, and it's going to blend the hair, so it's going to be super easy just to fade from there. Usually that's the technique I like to use. So go ahead here, I'm going to go ahead and use a number 2. It's going to be a 2 with the lever open, and that's going to blend into the clipper over comb technique that I use. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and close that lever, and then we're just going to start down fading from there. Here we're using a 1.5 with the lever open, and then we're gonna go ahead and close that lever. Honestly, I'm gonna be honest, you probably wouldn't have had to use the 1.5. I would have just jumped into the 1 open, but I wanted to do 1.5 because I know a lot of barbers use the 1.5. I think kind of like it, so I didn't want to skip that guard. But yeah, you could have gone from the 2 to number 1 if you wanted to, you know, but that's just my preference if I want to be quicker. But I know a lot of barbers really like using the halves, like the 1.5 and the 1/16, so that's why I put that in here. So here we're using a 1 open, and then once we have the 1 open, we're gonna go ahead and close that lever, and then how you can see, like, you can start already seeing that it's getting faded. This client has really difficult hair to fade on one side, so that's this side, the side that we're looking at right now. It's actually very difficult to fade just because the hair grows in the opposite direction, right? We want the hair to slick back a little bit, and it just grows in the opposite direction, so you really have to work with this hair. And the problem is that you cannot cut it too short on the sides, because if you cut it too short, like you go with the fade too high, then what's going to happen is that the hair is really going to spike up, right? So it's kind of tricky. It's either you create that shape or you create those shades, right? So usually what I like to do, I create the shape instead of the shade. So pretty much what it is that I make sure that the hair is a sculpture. It has a nice silhouette to it, so it actually looks nice, because it kind of creates a nice shape on the head, instead of going for the tones, for the perfect fade that is just going to look blurry from one side. But you know, then when the client tries to style the hair, is not going to look the best, right? So sometimes you're going to make decisions like that. And this client, how I said, this side is more difficult than the other one. I'm going to show you guys at the end how the other side looks. The other side just kind of fades so much better. The hair grows in the direction that we would like it to grow. So you know, just keep that in mind. It's always important to remember that. And this is Stephanie over here. Like always, she's hilarious. So you guys gonna soon learn more about Steph. So here we're using a hot towel because we're gonna shave the back and create the shape up. So pretty much with the shape up, it's pretty easy. He doesn't get much on his shape up. All we really do is just kind of clean up a little bit of the whatever extra hairs that we see. We're gonna clean up the neck just to make sure that everything is clean there. Just make sure, guys, you clean the neck. You know how many times I go to the mall and I see these nice haircuts, very nice haircuts, with a bunch of hair on the neck, and it just drives me crazy, because I'm like, why are barbers being lazy? You put on all this work on making the fade look so nice, and then you leave the hair, the nape or the neck full of hair. So I just don't get it. So here, you know, we're using our blade. We did apply a little bit of shaving gel, and we applied a hot towel just to soften the skin, just to make sure that, you know, I don't like shaving my clients dry. It's just, you know, my clients already got used to me using nice products on their face and the neck and everything, and they just like it. So here I'm just double checking, making sure that everything is the right way, everything. It has a nice shape that I wanted. How I said, like, sometimes you have to pick between the shape or the shade, and then, you know, in this case, definitely the shape is more important, because we want to make sure the client can style their hair and they can actually it grows nicely the way they want it to grow. So you know, that's more important sometimes than the actual shape of it. So here I'm just adding a little extra product, not much, because how I said, the client already had product on his hair. His hair is really difficult to manage, so he has to put product. He puts like a really heavy kind of pomade to keep it like slick back. The good thing is that the hair is kind of wavy, so it slicks back even when it's short. A lot of very straight hair does not slick back when it's this short, so you know, just keep that in mind. It's important. Length is important when you're doing certain styles. So here's the final look. I think it looks great. It really goes well with his head shape, and that's what I really wanted. How you can see this side actually fades a lot nicer. It grows in the nice direction. And that's it. That's the video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe, like it, share with somebody that can benefit from this video. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.